it is Wednesday, and Senator Sanders is on the road. Friday's not going to be available for us, so he is dropping by today. And so Senator Sanders is live from someplace. Senator?
We're live from Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. Oh, one of the great cities in America. So what's going on, Senator? It's great to see you this weekend.
We are on the road. You and I were together in L.A. Marianne Williamson put on a beautiful event there.
Yeah.
Sister Giant. And I heard you were great in your remarks. I didn't hear them, but that's what I heard. Later on in that afternoon, we went to a Union Hall in L.A. on a beautiful Sunday. Next day, the following day, we had about 500, 600 people. That was a great meeting.
Wow.
And then we went to Las Vegas, and I talked to the culinary workers, and we had filled up the place there. And now I was in Austin last night, and I'm here today, and we had a great meeting at the IBW headquarters. And I'll be speaking tonight at the Polk County Democrats. And I think what I am finding, Tom, is people are just increasingly disgusted that in a time when the middle class continues to disappear, when people are working longer hours for low wages, when people can't afford health care, can't afford to send their kids to college, can't afford child care, can't afford retirement with dignity, that 99% of all new income is going to the top 1%. And there was a study that just came out recently. I've been talking about it, here in the West. It's just literally mind-blowing. And here's what it did. This was in Forbes magazine. And Forbes magazine, which is a magazine for billionaires, keeps track of the progress the billionaires are making. This is what they reported. They said between 2013 and 2015, a 2-year period, the 14 wealthiest people in this country, that is Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and the Koch brothers and those guys, they saw an increase in their wealth in that 2-year period of $157 billion.
Wow.
Got that?
Wow.
That's right. It is wow. That $157 billion increase in wealth in a 2-year period is more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people own, some 130 million people. It is, wow is probably an understatement. It's just extraordinary. It is that we live in a society where the income and wealth inequality is so grotesque that it's really unspeakable. It's hard to describe. $157 billion for 14 people in a 2-year period on top of everything else they own. So that we are now living in a nation in which the top 1/10% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Then I sit, as you know, as the ranking member of the Budget Committee, and I watch my Republican friends, and they say, well, things are really, really tough, and I guess we're going to have to end the Affordable Care Act and cut Medicaid by some $440 billion, which throws 27 million Americans off of health insurance. Because, Tom, we're just a really poor country. Right. Just can't afford to allow 27 million Americans to have health insurance, while 14 families see a $157 billion increase in their wealth in a 2-year period. We're just a very poor country, and we have to do what the Republicans told us, cut $90 billion in mandatory funding for Pell Grants. So all over the country, in my state of Vermont, I know, and I know in the other 49 states, you have families saying, look, we would love to see our kids go to college. We just can't afford it. We don't want to see our kids come out $50,000, $60,000 in debt. Republican response is to cut $90 billion over a 10-year period in mandatory Pell Grant funding, which makes it much harder for working-class families to send their kids to college. We don't talk about poverty in America. It's something the politicians don't talk about, media doesn't talk about too often. Yet we have more people living in poverty today than almost any time in the modern history of America. And the Republican response to poverty is to make devastating cuts in nutrition programs so that hunger in America will be increased. So you have two realities. Reality number one is virtually all of the new income in America goes to the top 1%. Republicans are very, very clear, and in their budget, they cut taxes for the billionaire class. And number two, what Republicans are saying, while the rich become phenomenally richer, we've got to continue the war against the middle class and working families of our country. And we are not going to ask the billionaire class to pay a nickel more in taxes. We are not going to ask large corporations, some of which pay zero in taxes in a given year, to pay a nickel more in taxes. But what we will do, is cut education, cut health care, cut nutrition. We've pushed them back on Social Security, but they'll be back. They want to cut Social Security. I was at a hearing recently where this guy was John Engler, the former governor of Michigan. He represents now the Business Roundtable. The Business Roundtable is, as you know, the organization of the largest CEOs in America. All the big corporations are there. They came forward, and you know what their policy is for the United States? They want to raise the retirement age for Social Security to 70, the retirement age for Medicare to 70, and give more tax breaks to the rich. And we had done a little research on the Business Roundtable, and it turns out that the average CEO there gets about, when he retires or she retires, will get $88,000 a month in retirement benefits.
Wow.
About $1 million a year. And they came forward and they said, we want you to make massive cuts in Social Security and Medicare. So the greed that we're seeing, the aggressive greed that we're seeing from the 1%, and the war that they are waging against the middle class and working families of this country is just horrific. It is horrific. It is almost unspeakable. And if we don't rally the American people, and if we don't educate, and if we don't organize, this country is going to be moving very rapidly to an oligarchy where ordinary people will have very little political power because of Citizens United, and their standard of living will continue to decline. So, that's where we're at.
You're doing kind of an Energizer Bunny tour here. It's amazing every place you're going. I'm curious. You're all over the country right now. Are you hearing different messages? Are people's concerns regionalized, or is there? I
don't think so. We have been, many months ago I was in the South, and which I think Democrats very stupidly write off. And I think that just the South is the poorest part of America.
Yeah.
And if people are hurting anywhere, they're hurting in the South, and you can't write them off. But I tell you, since I've been here on the West Coast in California, Nevada, yesterday we were just in Austin. It was unbelievable. Literally, you could not squeeze another person into that room. I don't know, 500-600 people coming out, and a lot of young people. And the issue that resonates not just with young people, with their parents, is how do you have a great nation if our young people can't afford to get a college education?
Yeah.
How do you do that in a competitive global economy where most of the new jobs require considerable education? How do you have a strong economy and a great nation if our kids can't get the education that they need? How do you do that? And the other issue, the twin side of that issue, is that you have millions of families today who are paying off these horrendous student debts. I remember last year talking to a young woman in Burlington, Vermont. Her crime was that she went to medical school to become a primary care physician to work with low-income people. Exactly what we need in America. She is stuck with a $300,000 debt. Now, she's a doctor. She'll pay it off.
Wow.
Dentist, $250,000 debt. Completely crazy.
Yeah, it really...
And I think these are the issues that resonate 50 states in America.
There you go. Senator Bernie Sanders is with us. He's only with us for 45 minutes today. He's got to travel on to an event at 45 minutes past the hour. So for the next 30 minutes, taking your calls. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And be sure to check out Senator Sanders' website, sanders.senate.gov. You can sign up for the Bernie Buzz. Highly recommended. The website's a great news source. Check him out on Facebook, too. So, Senator, shall we pick up some phone calls? Oop, turn it back up. Yep. Senator?
Yep.
Yeah. Shall we pick up some phone calls here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's go for it here. Randall in Oceanside, California. You are on the air, Senator Sanders.
Yeah, Senator, I just want to thank you very much for giving up your time every week for this program. Real quick, I want to know, if you become president, will you be proactive for the United States to join the International Crime Commission, considering we cannot self-govern ourselves in cases of torture and war crimes?
Well, I believe very strongly that if the United States stands for anything, Randall, it stands for the fact that we do not torture, that we have a standard that treats people, that sets a code that we are not going to torture and mistreat prisoners. And we do that not only from a moral perspective, but that if we descend into torture, then it's very hard to tell other countries not to do that to our own soldiers if they are ever captured. So I think in every sense of the word, that's the right policy to have.
Rafiq in Humble, Texas. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
Hi, Rafiq.
Senator Sanders, I have a statement, not so much of a question. I've spoken with Tina from the Bernie and Friends campaign.
Yep.
And we basically have millions of voters and definitely can raise millions of dollars once you give your official consent that you're going to run for the presidency, and we are totally excited about that. We know that we can bring that revolution that you, not only that you're speaking about, but that this country needs. All right, so I'll clear the air and let the rest of the callers come in. But thank you, and keep doing the good work.
Well, Rafiq, thank you. And I am in your state right now, and it's funny. Texas is presumed to be a very conservative state, but man, what I'm seeing around here suggests otherwise. Let me just answer Rafiq's question. It is no secret, Tom, because we've discussed it many times on this show, that I am giving thought to running for president. And the reason I'm giving thought is just what Rafiq was talking about, is that we do need a political revolution in this country, which says that our government cannot simply be at the service of the billionaire class, that we've got to start dealing with the enormous problems facing the working class, lower-income people, the middle class. And we can do these things. We really can. And we can transform America. And one of the reasons that I'm here on the West Coast is to try to ascertain what kind of support there is. Because when you run the campaign that I would run if I do run, it is taken on the entire establishment. I mean, it's not just the Koch brothers, and it's not just Wall Street, and it's not just the pharmaceutical industry or the private insurance companies or the military industrial complex. It's the whole bunch of it. It's the media and it's everybody else. And it's not an easy campaign. And if you do it, it has to be done well, not just for my own ego. It has to be done well because the manna that I will be carrying is the manna for millions of people. And if we don't do it well, then our opposition says, see, nobody really thinks that we need to make college affordable. Nobody thinks that we need to really have health care for all. Nobody really is worried about income and wealth inequality. Sanders ran and he failed. So that's what the hesitancy is about, that if you do it, you got to do it well, which means that we need a very strong grassroots movement. We need to raise enough money to run a strong campaign.
We'll be right back with Senator Sanders right after this. Bernie Sanders on the line with us, taking your calls in our Wednesday version of Brunch with Bernie here. Senator Sanders will be with us until 45 minutes past the hour. And Rob in Iron Mountain, Minnesota, you are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Senator Sanders, Tom, thank you for the time. It's where my question is where the Republicans and the conservatives will let the worst in our society thrive, while the rest of us, the dreamers, will die. Senator Sanders, please run for president. Even if you can't go all the way, we need your ideas out there to be able to take and to challenge what we have out there as far as what's running right now. And my only really grave threat that I think out there that we have as far as on the conservative side, and I'm not kidding, I think Dick Cheney is going to enter this race because it's one of those things where you want to energize the base, he's out there. Thank you.
Okay, well, Rob, thanks very much for your support.
Any further comment, or shall we go on to the next call?
No,
yeah, okay.
I appreciate the support.
Okay, Susan in Brunswick, Georgia. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I wanted to talk about the Affordable Care Act, but first I wanted to say, if you run, and Elizabeth as well, you definitely have our vote. I think it's not time for you to run yet. I think this country has to really tank before we can get the Republicans to vote for you. With that being said, I also wanted to speak about my experience with the Affordable Care Act, which is not so good. I just got my taxes done this morning, and I found out that the whole subsidy of $5,000 that I received with the Affordable Care Act, I have to pay every penny of it back. And what I have found out is that when I was calling to first apply for it, the people there that answer the phone, they're not giving the correct information. They first told me that with my husband's Medicare, his Social Security, which is his only income, they were telling me when I first applied that the only amount that they needed was the amount after they take out his Medicare. And then with my job, I do get commission at times. It's sporadic. And my boss also gives me Christmas money, but that she puts in my W-2 form. And when I told them about that, they told me you don't have to put the Christmas bonus in there, and you don't
Susan,
have to
pardon my interrupting you. We have a very limited amount of time with Bernie. Is there a specific question you wanted to ask?
Well, my problem is that the people that are answering the phone are not giving the correct information.
Okay, let's let the senator respond to that.
And one of the problems, and thanks for your question, I mean, one of the problems with the Affordable Care Act, of which there are more than a few, is that it is enormously complicated. And that is why, in my view, and I voted for the Affordable Care Act, and the Affordable Care Act has done some very good things. It's provided health insurance for some 16 million Americans who previously didn't have it. It has done away with this obscenity of pre-existing conditions. It has lowered prescription drug costs for seniors. So it's done some good things. But it has done some things that are not so good, and ultimately it is far more complicated than any sensible healthcare system should be. And I think we have a lot to learn from countries around the world that provide health care to all of their people as a right. In America, after the Affordable Care Act, we still have 35 million people who have no health insurance. And we are still paying almost twice as much per person for health care as any other country. So, what my view is that we should move to cost-effective, universal health care, quality health care, which is Medicare for all through a single-payer system. And I think when we do that, we address the problems that Susan and millions of other people are facing.
Okay. John in Gilbert, Arizona. Got about a minute and a half to the break. John, quick one.
Hey, Bernie, you're a wonderful person. Thank you so much. If you run for president, I would love to see you and Warren as a ticket. Hey, my question is, in Arizona, our worthless Governor Doug Ducey, he just passed a bill on Monday, SB 1315 or 18, I believe. I don't understand how he could do this. He made it so women cannot get insurance through the Affordable Care Act if the insurance company provides abortions. Can you explain how this can happen? And we all know that Republicans always break the law every given day.
Thank you, John.
Well, look, I'm not all that familiar with what happened in Arizona last week, but what I do know is the Republicans are ideologically bankrupt. They have nothing real to say to the needs of the American people. Their goal is to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut back on the programs that working families need. Basically, that's their agenda. So in order to get votes, what they do is go to certain sections of their base. They have a strong anti-abortion base, and every other week there'll be another attack on women's rights, and they hope that will rally their base. And what our job is to say to people, look, I am, and I should tell you, I am my whole life have been and will be pro-choice, but that we have got to bring people together on basic economic issues so that we do not keep getting divided by right-wing Republicans.
Senator Sanders with us until 45 minutes past the hour. We'll be picking up more of your calls for Bernie in our Wednesday Brunch with Bernie here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Senator's on the road. He won't be So we're doing it right now. Stick around. We'll be back with more of Senator Sanders.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
And check out Bernie's website, sanders.senate.gov. You can sign up for the Bernie Buzz. You can also find him on Facebook. He's got a very, very popular Facebook page. Welcome back to the final 15 minutes of our Brunch with Bernie. Actually, it'll be about 12 minutes. Senator Sanders on the line with us, live from Austin, Texas. Pardon me. Senator, you're still with us?
I'm right here.
Okay, great. Kenny, in Columbus, Ohio, you are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Hi, Senator Sanders and Tom. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Great.
My question real quick, sir, is when are Democrats going to run on the issues that matter to regular people instead of trying to run as Republican lights? This is why you're losing elections. Because until, I'm going to use Tom's, he calls there's two groups of people who vote for Republicans. It's either the very rich or the suckers. And we know who the suckers are. And until they get it, they're going to continue to vote against their own interests. But Democrats are not running as Democrats. When are they going to start running again on issues and showing the real differences between themselves? Thank you.
Well, let me tell you something. I think, Tom, that's Kenny who called, right, from
Yes.
Ohio?
Yeah, that was Kenny.
Well, he hit it right on the head. I mean, I couldn't say it better. What's happened for a number of years is I think too many Democrats have gotten into the money chase. They spend a huge amount of time trying to raise money, and money is important. That's the sad reality, and it's even more important since Citizens United. But when you spend much of your life raising money from the wealthy and the powerful, you are going to start ignoring the real issues that impact the middle class and working families and low-income people, and you're not going to talk their issues. And the other point is that, in my view, we do not make the changes that we need in this country to protect working families, frankly, unless we are prepared to take on Wall Street and the billionaire class. Now, that's the way it is. I mean, there's certain things that you can do. But at the end of the day, this is the richest country in the history of the world. We are not a poor country. And the fundamental problem with our economy today is that 99% of all new income is going to the top 1%, and that the top 1/10 of 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. And that has got to be dealt with. And let me tell you something. The billionaire class is very powerful. They're extremely greedy, and they have enormous influence over every aspect of our lives. And there are not all that many Democrats who, frankly, are prepared to take them on. So I think Kenny's point is exactly right. You got to draw the lines. Which side are you on? Are you on the side of the billionaire class? Fine. Or are you on the side of working families? I think the other point that Ken said is the Republicans have two parts of them. One, the people who own the party, the very, very wealthy, and the other what he called the suckers. And that is what the Republicans have done brilliantly, is come up with wedge issues, whether it's homophobia, whether it's racism, whether it is sexism, whether it is this, that, or the other thing, and to get people to support them and vote against their own best interests. And our job is to do exactly the opposite, to say to people, look, do you want your kids to be able to go to college or not? Do you want to have a decent wage and raise the minimum wage? Do you want your job to go to China? Do you want health care as a right? And I think if we stay on those issues, we can win a lot of those folks over. But I think Kenny made some great points.
Doug in Oregon, Illinois. You are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Honor to speak with you, Senator Sanders. You hit on a lot of the points I was going to talk about. Greed is a disease, and obviously these people are sick. They're not dealing with society well at all. You can't act this way in society. But how do you get the message across that greed is a disease, and that's what we're being run by, when the media is the tail recipient of the big money?
Well, Doug, Tom, we are getting some great questions today. I'll tell you that. It's amazing to me how people see right through so much of the crap that's out there. And Doug hit it right on the head. Let's deal with the 2 points that he made. Everybody, not everybody, but most of the people who are listening, and you and I, I'm sure, know people who have had alcohol problems and have had drug problems. And when you are addicted, that's what addiction means, is you need more and more and more of it, and people kill themselves. They need another drink and another drug, and they kill themselves sometimes or make themselves terribly sick. And I think that Doug is right, that I think a lot of these billionaires, I mean, you tell me what I'm missing here, Tom, but if you were the Koch brothers and you were worth $85 billion, that might be just enough money for you to get by, right?
I think I might just move to Hawaii and sit on the beach.
Right. I mean, you're probably going to be able to pay the rent next year and take care of your kids with $85 billion. But these people are obsessed with trying to destroy Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and the Environmental Protection Agency and get rid of every piece of legislation designed to protect working families in the last 80 years. They want more and more and more. And I think Doug's point is that you really are, in some ways, here dealing with a psychiatric issue of people who cannot control themselves. They have the power. They want more power. They have the money. They want more power. And they don't really care who they step on. And, Doug also mentioned, the media. And media in this country is a very, very serious problem, not unrelated to this. Who do you think owns the media? You think you're talking about the establishment and the billionaire class, and then there's the media. It's not, and there's the media. The media is part of that establishment and that billionaire class. And there are issues that the media will talk about, and there are issues that essentially the media will not focus on. So if somebody gets shot someplace, God forbid today, it'll be all over the media. But if the Republicans throw 27 million people off of health insurance, I didn't see too many front-page stories on that. Did you see that, Tom?
Nope.
You see big specials? Republican Party today threw 27 million people off of health insurance in their budget. Didn't see that story. I didn't see the story about what the Trans-Pacific Partnership will do to the American people. In fact, interestingly enough, there was a study. I don't know if it's changed, so I may be wrong on this. But Media Matters reported about a month ago that the TPP, which is the largest trade agreement in the history of the United States of America, was not mentioned on the major TV networks.
Right.
How does that happen? And I can tell you that last year, some senators and I wrote a letter to the heads of the network saying, another study showed you're hardly talking about climate change. Is that because maybe your big energy companies are putting a lot of advertisements on the air? Maybe you don't want to antagonize them. So, Doug is right. Media plays a very important role in our society and in focusing us on this issue and ignoring many, many other issues. And that's just something we're going to have to deal with.
Kevin, Kevin, I got your zip code. I don't have the city. Where are you calling from?
Oh, from Lincoln County, Missouri.
There you go. You're on the air with Senator Sanders.
Oh, Tom, what an honor, sir. Mr. Sanders, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
And I'm sorry if I get a little nervous. I'm a first-time caller. But I've been retired for 3 years, and I've been watching the political system with the Senate and the House every day. And I haven't seen the momentum as that bill of Governor Pence's that they try to pass that law. It rallied people. Just seemed like over a weekend, and something's being done. It made people nervous. And I believe that's the kind of momentum we need to get changes back to the middle class. And my question to you is, how can we keep that momentum going? And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, Kevin, thank you very much for your call and for the comment that you made. And Kevin, I don't know what it is, what people are eating today, Tom, but everybody seems to be right on the money.
Yep.
And Kevin makes, the point that Kevin makes is that the governor of Indiana, Governor Pence, is just defending a horrendous piece of law in the state of Indiana. And that law says that for religious reasons, I can discriminate. Well, we've been through that in the history of this country, That's what the whole civil rights movement was about. People say, well, for my own reasons, for religious reasons, or whatever reason, I don't want, an African-American to come into my restaurant and sit, or to go to a school for religious reasons. Well, we don't accept that. That's what the whole effort in this country to end discrimination is about. And we no longer accept an employer saying, well, I'm not going to hire you because you're Irish. Remember there was a time no Irish need apply. Remember that sign?
Sure, late
no
19th
Jews
century.
Need apply. No Italians need apply. Blacks not wanted. Asians not wanted. You know, we have made some progress, real progress in this country, getting rid of all of that nonsense. And we're not going to stop. And I have the feeling that what the government of Indiana is now seeing is an American people who are saying loudly and clearly, you're not going to turn back the clock. We're not going back to a discriminatory society. And I think Kevin's point that just in the question of a few days, from coast to coast, people are rising up. And this does tell you, I mean, it also tells you the power of the Internet and the social media and what can happen when people get aroused. And Kevin's last point was, well, can we do this on economic issues? And I think we can. It's harder. To be frank with you, it's harder because, you know, you got a lot of sensible corporations out there and business people who may be gay, who have gay colleagues, who are not sympathetic to homophobia, who will deal with this issue. They may not deal with other issues. But I think the line here, the lesson here, is that when people stand up and say something, we can have an impact. And that is what we have to do. We need an aroused public. And I think mostly we need to say that this government does not just belong to the top 1%. It belongs to us all.
There you go. Senator, I know you've got to get on to your next gig. Thanks so much for being with us today.
All right, Tom, great. Take care. Bye.
Great talking. Thank you so much.